we are getting even closer to Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Star Crossed World Switch 2 Edition DLC, which is super exciting because of course it's going to expand on the Kirby lore even more probably. Now in the last video, we went over the entirety of the overview trailer and talked about how the lore could be drastically different this time while also bringing back some cool callbacks to past Kirby games like Another Dimension, potential return of the lore Star Cutter, Kirby Star Allies callback with the Jambastion Heart, and we even went over the possibility for Galactonite to make a return. But I want to dive a little bit deeper today and talk about who the main antagonist of this mode is going to be. So if you're excited for more Kirby lore, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby. We are super close to 400,000 subscribers. We're trying to reach it by the end of the year. So if you enjoy this video, let's leave a like and subscribe and see how many people we can get to subscribe to this video. So all we know is some blue crystallized heart-shaped meteor fell from the sky and crashed into one of the oceans in the Forgotten Land. Now something to note is that the heart-shaped meteor is falling but covered in blue crystal as it descends. But right before it hits the water, it looks like the blue crystal actually breaks off of it and you can see the red corrupted inside. And once it lifts up that volcanic island from the ocean, you'll notice that it's still covered in that corrupted red and purple look instead of having the blue crystal around it. Now we see another scene once again of the heart, but it looks like it's imprisoned once again back in that crystal. So I would like to assume that this is towards the end of this story where they actually were able to imprison it once again, but it's about to once again break free. Now, the only thing we know about this evil is the announcer states that we have to seal away an impending evil. It doesn't really tell us what this impending evil is or really anything about it. But on my last video, you guys pointed out something that I definitely missed. It 100% looks like Fecto Forgo is inside of this heart. Now, once you see it, it's actually pretty hard to unsee. You can even see one of the giant ears in the top left of its head in this screen, and even the little veins going up through its head and ear, just like in the actual main game. Now, it's been over 3 years since the story ended, so odds are a lot of you forgot exactly what happened in that story, including myself, so I actually had to go back and kind of recap on some things. Now, Fecto Elfless was an alien creature that once invaded this world and its inhabitants. Somehow, the people of this world were able to capture the creature and actually run tests in it in Lab Discovera. They wanted to create their own planetary warp technology that Fecto Elfless had the power to create. And the people of this world were massively successful, as they were able to actually warp themselves to a world of dreams, quote unquote, where they left this world behind, and that's what made it the Forgotten Land. Because of this, an accident also occurred in the lab that split the creature into two separate entities, one being Fecto Forgo and the other one being Elflin. So in order to be whole once again, Fecto Forgo captures Elflin in order to combine to form into its normal form, which is Fecto Elfless. Kirby is able to defeat Fecto Elfless, where Fecto Forgo actually retreats in soul form. In this soul form, it once again takes over the mind of Leongar and controls him in order to fight Kirby and Elflin. Once Leongar is defeated once again, Soul Forgo releases and is getting ready for another massive fight against Kirby and Elflin, this time as Psychic Beast Soul Forgo. But of course, this boss battle will never emerge because the Morpho Knight Butterfly actually flies in, lands on Fecto, and actually consumes its essence. However, once Kirby defeats Morpho Knight this time, you can still see the soul of Fecto Forgo escapes into the sky, and with all the power consumed from Morpho Knight now, he's able to turn into his true form, Chaos Elfless, and even imbues some of the same colors of Morpho Knight with the reds, oranges, and yellows. Kirby once again then defeats Elfless, and his body turns into this creepy soul sphere that floats in the air. After an extremely intense battle, Elfless just disappears, and we never see or hear anything from him again. So assuming that this is the very end of this creature and the end of this story, then how in the world are we seeing Fecto Forgo once again in this heart-shaped meteor? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine, because I'm completely stumped on a lot of things here. Well, the first thing I thought to myself was, how could Fecto Forgo be falling from the sky back into the Forgotten Land? It doesn't really make sense. Wouldn't his soul or essence still just be here if this is him getting revived again? Why would he be falling from the sky, especially with a different race with him? Like, why would we have to collect these completely new creatures in order to imprison somebody that we've already fought multiple times and defeated? Well, maybe Fecto Forgo isn't in the meteor until it crashes. Maybe this is some type of new ancient evil that comes from wherever these stories come from as well, where they've already imprisoned it, but is trying to find a new host. And Fecto Forgo, for some reason, is the new host. Whether he's still alive somewhere in the Forgotten Land as a soul, just wandering around, I still don't understand how that could even be. Especially since we pretty much destroyed its entire essence and soul all in one. It completely dissipated, not even leaving a trace or a glimmer of hope for it to return. However, I have a whole nother theory here. HAL Labs isn't afraid to cross-reference games and bring in things from past games in order to tie lore pieces together. So hang on tight because this is going to get kind of crazy. Do you remember those weird crystal star-shaped things that floated in the void back in Another Dimension at the end of Kirby's Return to Dreamland? These look exactly like the same crystallized structures that the Starries actually fall down in the Forgotten Land. I even talked about how the swirls on the face of the Starries actually look very similar to the mast of the Lore Star Cutter as well. So what exactly am I getting at here? Well, let's go back to the Maglar boss fight at the end of Kirby's Return to Dreamland. After you defeat his soul, it seemingly kills him off for good as he vanishes into a white light and disappears without a trace, as if he dies and goes to the afterlife. In fact, that's exactly what happens to him in that game. But we find out years later in the remake that Magolor didn't just die and vanish. He actually has a chance to redeem himself and come back, as he goes to what is some sort of purgatory where he has to redevelop all of his skills and escape this separate dimension that he's sent to, which is very similar to Another Dimension. So what I'm saying is, what if this is exactly what's going on with Fecto Elfilis, where once he disappeared, he actually went to some type of purgatory where he was able to actually be revived and come back. Maybe once he came back, he was in a weaker state, and his heart helped to actually revive him in his powers and make him a lot more stronger. My theory is yes, there was an ancient evil in some other realm that was sent here and tried to find the most powerful host to take over, and a revived Fecto Forgo was the perfect candidate. So it does seem like our final fight will once again be with another form of Fecto Forgo or Fecto Elfilis. However, I do not think that will be the only final boss here. I do think there is a separate evil at work here that's actually maybe even controlling Fecto Forgo, or maybe taking over him or giving him his power, because this is some type of evil that fell from the sky with a different race after all. So I do feel like this is some type of ancient evil coming from another realm. And unless you're completely new to Kirby, you probably know how this works, where there's multiple phases to the final boss, sometimes like even 3 to 4 or even 5 different phases. So I think Fecto Forgo is simply just going to be one of the first phases. At least I'm hoping so. I do hope there's an original enemy or an original antagonist for this side mode as well. Now, why is this meteor a heart? Now, this is the thing that kind of confused me at first, because I didn't understand why this shape was so important. Now, the first thing you could say is maybe it's because Fecto Forgo's already kind of shaped like a heart, so yes, that makes sense, but the fact that it fell from the sky as a blue crystallized heart in the very beginning makes me think that it was already a heart from wherever it came from, and actually when we rebuild the thing, it turns back into a heart. I mean, both forms of it is a heart, even the darker form. Now, we've seen hearts throughout the entirety of the Kirby series, but in only one particular instance did they really emphasize on a crystal heart, and that was the end of Kirby Star Allies, where we learned about the Jamba Heart, which is a giant crystallized heart that imprisons evil. Now, as they're not identical, both of these hearts do have some similarities to them. They both have a normal sealed color, where the one in the Forgotten Land was a bright pink and then later turned into a dark purple when the evil was about to escape. Then you have a blue one in the Forgotten Land that turns into a deep dark purplish red. And that heart in Star Allies was to imprison Void Termina, the destroyer of worlds, which he was already imprisoned a long time ago by 4 warriors before re-released again by Highness at the end of Star Allies. But still, we have a lot of missing lore about the ancients, about those 4 warriors, and about the Jamba Hearts in the first place. So maybe this is some type of story tie-in to also Star Allies, showing where the Jamba Hearts were actually made and why they're made and what else has been imprisoned by these things. So could you imagine if this was some type of Void Termina Fecto Forgo combination that actually ties in story elements of Another Dimension from Return to Dreamland as well? It would be a crazy thing to see. It's a stretch, but it's something that I wouldn't put past HAL Labs. They've done crazier things. I mean, look at Morpho Knight now just joining into the series. Now, there's one more thing that I want to mention. I once again still think that there is another evil outside of Fecto Forgo returning, because we see these new star-faced creatures, and we don't really know what they are or who they are, but we do see a scene where one actually breaks apart in the Nintendo treehouse, and we can get a good look at its body. It seems to be some type of pink or purple goo that gets encapsulated in this crystallized structure that works as like an armor. We even get to see its face in one scene, where it's this blue and pink striped blob with a giant eyeball in the center. So seeing this new race of creature definitely tells me that there has to be some sort of leader that looks very similar or somewhat similar to this creature here. So between them and the Starries, that's kind of why I'm still a little hesitant to believe that it's just about Fecto Forgo once again. And I do think there is going to be another big bad that we just haven't seen yet. But But what do you guys think? Did I miss something a part of these theories? Is there something that you want to add to the theories? Or maybe there's something else that you want to dive into about the DLC that you saw that maybe I missed? Make sure you leave a comment and leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Nintendo in general. And like always, I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.